With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. I am delighted to have you with me here where we can give you a dose of reality about what happened last night. My goodness gracious. Listen, I want to take your phone calls today. 877-973-7425, but hold off on them now. Let me just talk to you about Joe Biden's speech last night. Here, just so you have a little excerpt of it.
Democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental.
One more excerpt.
That the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. These are hard things. But I'm an American president, not a president of red America, blue America, but of all America. And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people.
The day that Donald Trump was inaugurated, there were riots in Washington, D.C., and Democrats claimed deep shame about the country having gone towards Donald Trump. So it sounds to some degree to be a little bit of projection there. Here's a little excerpt of Joe Biden practicing his speech before giving it. This is from inside the White House.
Und doch habe ich allein auf mich gestellt, ganz Europa erobert. Verräter. Von allem Anfang an bin ich so verraten und betrogen worden. Es wurde ein ungeheurer Verrat geübt am deutschen Volke.
They made him translate it into English from the original German to give the speech last night. Now look, I have very strong opinions about the speech, but I want to start the show in a different way. Believe it or not, I want to treat this somewhat dispassionately. Last night after it was over, I immediately got on social media and said the staging looked like Leni Riefenstahl could have done it. And the speech had to be translated from German. It was even, he literally stood in front of gaslights to gaslight America. He had Marines behind him with Nazi red coloring lighting the walls and proceeded to tell the nation that half the nation is the enemy. I've strongly held opinions about this speech. I don't think it worked. I think it was bad. I think it was divisive. It was as bad as Donald Trump walking across Lafayette Park holding up the Bible, if not worse. But I also try to be an analyst. You know my biases. And let me just step back for a moment before I really get into my strongly held opinions and talk about it from a different perspective. Joe Biden gave this speech last night on the Thursday before Labor Day. He did so after Penn State and Pitt had their kickoffs for their college football games. So this was not a speech intended for anyone to watch. ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox News did not cover it. CNN and MSNBC did. They were the only two major networks to cover the speech. It got no other airtime. This was not a speech to be watched. This was a speech to be talked about. And of course, the talking heads in the media are talking about the speech today. But this wasn't a good speech to make as your closing argument, and that's what the Democrats say it is. It's a speech to talk about Joe Biden's closing argument for the midterms. And in fact, progressives feel like there's a blue wave coming now. They feel like the tide has shifted. The Wall Street Journal polling suggests independents are going their way. But if you recall when Joe Biden went down to Atlanta and he gave his very divisive speech about voting rights, the tide was already shifting towards the GOP then. This tide shift to the Democrats, it's being picked up in trending among all the polling. You can't take the individual polls at their word, but you can see the trends in the aggregate. And yes, there has been a shift back to the Democrats in the last month or two, particularly as Republicans have been talking about Donald Trump. What he did last night is he told these people that the Democrats' message is not the economy. It's not recovery. It's not good governance. It's not their ability to get things done. It's that 30% of the country is irreconcilable with the country and they must be marginalized. And please don't pay attention to the fact that it is the Democrats who have spent over $40 million ensuring that these very people's candidates get the Republican Party's nominations. That's right. The Democrats have spent over $40 million to make sure these MAGA Republicans win Republican nominations, and Joe Biden took to the stage in Philadelphia to attack them and say they are a threat to democracy. If they are such a threat to democracy, why are the Democrats funding them? Is it because you think they can be beaten? Do you really want to take that risk by further legitimizing them? But the bottom line is that we have troubling economic news. The Democrats can't run on this troubling economic news, and they've now opened a hole for the Republicans to run through and make it about the economy and education and crime and the border, inflation. All of these issues the Republicans can now use because Joe Biden's closing argument is about Republicans, not about America. And 74 to 76 million people voted for Donald Trump. Donald Trump still has higher popularity right now than Joe Biden, but Joe Biden felt like the wind was at his backs and he decided he could pivot and he could do this. It's deeply flawed, and I don't believe me here. Roy Teixeira is a Democratic strategist and pollster. And this is the problem with Joe Biden's speech last night. Again, he did it on the Thursday night before Labor Day in Pennsylvania, as all of the big college football teams were starting the kickoff season. Nobody in the major networks covered it. Fox News didn't cover it. People were watching football. They weren't watching Joe Biden. It was staged like something out of 1930s Germany, so it was good that people didn't watch it for him. But the memes will live on after it. Do you know what the number one trending hashtag on Twitter was last night? Pedo Hitler. I'm not making that up. That literally was the number one trend on Twitter last night. Pedo Hitler. It was about Joe Biden in a speech. And so he stages it this way at a time no one's going to watch it because he wants it to be talked about. He doesn't actually want it to be seen. And the reason he wants it to be talked about is because he wants it to mobilize the Democratic base, because the Democrats have bought into this mythology that they can mobilize their base. It's larger than the Republican base, and they can win based on base mobilization. Roy Teixeira is this Democratic strategist, and he's written about this. He says it's a mythology. The giant hole the Democrats are now in is hard to deny. Biden's approval rating, a key indicator of midterm elections, is below 40%. Now, we wrote this before his upsurge to 40%. Republicans are ahead in the generic congressional ballot, which is still true, which typically underestimates their chances and argues for a big election for them. Democrats' approach to digging out of this hole relies heavily on turnout. Either implicitly or explicitly, Democrats think issues like abortion, guns, MAGA Republicans, and January 6th mostly are ways of mobilizing their base to turn out at higher levels in the current dismal political environment. For in a typical example, Robert Kuttner, in an article, Democracy Summer in the American Prospect, stated, the survival of Democrats in 2020 will depend heavily on turnout. Though Donald Trump will not be on the ballot, he will be our not-so-secret weapon. America today has fewer swing voters, but dozens of swing districts where turnout will determine the winner. If Democrat voters turn out, Democrats win. There are, however, a number of reasons why this turnout fix is highly unlikely to work and, in fact, borders on the delusional. First, some simple math. When Democrats persuade a voter to switch sides, that nets 2 votes for the Democrats, 1 less for the Republicans. When Democrats turn out 1 more voter to vote Democrat, that is, of course, a net of 1. But it's really worse than that. Typically, Democrats think of increased base turnout in terms of turning out more voters from various pro-democratic demographic groups. Young people, black voters, Hispanic voters, college-educated whites, whatever. But not all the voters in these groups favor the Democrats, so mobilization of more voters from a given group may well net less than 1 vote per additional voter. For example, looking at congressional ballot preferences, Democrats may only net 1/3 of the vote for every Hispanic voter or young voter, 6/10 of a vote for every additional black voter, and just 1/6 of a vote for every additional college-educated white voter. The math looks even more unfavorable when the following is considered. Democrats tend to assume that non-voters from a given demographic are the same politically as voters from the same group, except they don't vote. But a mountain of political science evidence shows that's not so. Non-voters controlling for demographics tend to be less ideological, and very importantly, if they do vote, tend to swing in a direction of the prevailing political environment, which of course is terrible for Democrats and likely to be so on Election Day. That means the yield for the Democrats from higher turnout could be even less than the data above indicates. This is their own strategist, highly respected by Democrats. And the Democratic Party believed the talking point. Right now, in the Real Clear Politics polling average, the Democrats have taken the lead for the first time since November of 2021. It's a 0.1% lead. Typically at this time of year, it's what we see. The Democrats, however, believe that the wind is at their backs now. They believe that suddenly they've turned a corner, that they have alienated people. But what have the Democrats talked about for the last month? What have they talked about? Yes, they've talked about Mar-a-Lago. They've talked about Donald Trump. They've encouraged Republicans to take that bait. But what have they really talked about? They've talked about their Reduce Inflation Act, which doesn't reduce inflation. They've talked about the college loan bailout. They've talked about Democrats are able to get things done. They've talked about Democrats have a path forward on the economy. They've talked about their agenda. Now the Democrats are the ones back to talking about MAGA Republicans, 30% of the country, whose campaigns they funded. This seems to me to be a political mistake for the White House to have done this. And by the way, a lot of Democratic strategists behind the scenes this morning agree with me. If you know where to look, you can see their passive-aggressive tweets. And these are some of the top strategists of the Democratic Party. On top of that, many of them aren't happy with the student loan bailout last week, which hasn't quite registered in the polling yet. So the Democrats took what felt like the wind at their backs by the seasonal polling momentum shift in their favor that happens every election season. They interpreted it as we've turned the corner, the blue wave is building, and now they've doubled down on an attack on half the country as racist, bigots, dangerous for democracy. while the memories of Democrats rioting in the streets over Trump and burning down Kenosha, Wisconsin are still in a lot of people's minds. And Biden decided to time his speech for the night college football kicked off 2 days before the Labor Day weekend, when none of the networks would cover it. That doesn't seem smart to me. I'll tell you what this seems like to me. When we come back, I'll tell you what I really think about it. I'm just analyzing the politics now. But there's a dangerous trend in the Democratic Party right now where progressives on Twitter rule the roost. They become really fixated on what progressives on Twitter think. They really want to win the daily battle on Twitter. They've embraced this idea of the dark Brandon meme. It actually originated from Chinese propaganda sources. Democrats picked it up to turn Let's Go Brandon on its head. Joe Biden is dark Brandon, and he's going to be ruthless against the Republicans and wage war against the GOP, and it's awesome. And it looks like they embraced this dark Brandon meme, including with the staging, with the red lights and the Marines and all behind him, and that they're going to proceed in this way forward because the progressives are more interested in winning the Twitter fight than winning the votes of people, because they've decided winning the Twitter fight will win them the votes, except that's what cost Hillary Clinton 2016, and that's what cost Kamala Harris 2020, and that's what cost Elizabeth Warren 2020. They were so fixated on winning the daily fights on Twitter, they themselves are the ones who got distracted. And that seems like that's what's happening here. Everybody asked me about Boll and Branch sheets. I actually put up a picture the other day. We got some in our house because we order from them. We actually are customers. They're like, oh my gosh, are they really that good? Yes, they get softer every single time you wash them. I mean, they use 100% organic cotton threads. They're super soft. You get such a good sleep. They have just the great weight to them. Like, I had a pair of sheets we actually threw away when we replaced them with Boll and Branch, where they were just like too light and also not very soft. The Boll and Branch, they're perfect. The drape across your body when you sleep, absolutely perfect. Boll and Branch uses the highest quality threads on earth for superior softness, for a better night's sleep. They've got over 10,000 stellar reviews. Their signature sheets come in 9 neutral colors in all sizes from twin to California King. You will feel the difference. And they're 100% free from toxins, no pesticides, no formaldehyde, no harsh chemicals. Get 15% off your first set of sheets when you use promo code ERIC, E-R-I-C-K, at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll and Branch, B-O-L-L-A-N-D branch.com. The promo code is ERIC, E-R-I-C-K. Hello there, it is Eric Erickson. All right, we're throwing open the phone lines now. If you have a take on last night's speech, I'm happy to take it. 877-973-7425. I am going to spend this hour on the fallout of the speech because I think it was a mistake, and seeing enough Democrats today think it was a mistake as well tells me I'm right on this. But here's my bottom line on this as a partisan. As someone who doesn't much care for Joe Biden, there are very few things he could make me do to like him even less, and this is one of them. To stand in front of Independence Hall, to have the Marines and the presidential seal there, to claim this is an official presidential speech when it was a partisan hit job on half the country. If Donald Trump had done this, Jim Acosta would literally have peed his pants while crying on CNN. Don Lemon would be dropping F-bombs, and the kids at MSNBC would be in therapy for the next 3 years. And instead, they've all got the thigh sweats because of their sexual gratification of Joe Biden giving the speech he gave last night. Kudos to the grown-ups at CNN, including Breonna Keeler, Jake Tapper, and others, for saying it was inappropriate to have the Marines and the presidential seal there for what was clearly a partisan campaign event. It was nice to see them call him out. And that's why I can say with authority Joe Biden has a problem and the Democrats have a problem with the speech, because it wasn't partisans like me calling him out for stuff like this. It was the talking heads on CNN who called him out for it. Forget MSNBC. CNN did that. You couldn't have gotten more Hitler than having Hitler himself give that address last night. It was absolutely bizarre. It was like if Adolf Hitler and Stalin had a love child, it was Joe Biden's speech last night. My buddy Jason notes that Joe Biden gave his speech last night on the 83rd anniversary of Hitler invading Poland. The staging of the speech, Most of you didn't see it. You may have seen the photos. The photos are not photoshopped. I have to admit, I didn't see the speech first. I went back and I decided I'd read the transcript of it, and then I started seeing the pictures. I thought that they had to be photoshopped. No, they were not photoshopped. Not only that, but the lighting literally did give Joe Biden a little Hitler mustache. He had this little shadow right under his nose, looked like a little Hitler mustache. It was absolutely bizarre that anybody thought this was a good idea for him to get up there. Basically his speech was entitled "The Struggle." It genuinely was not a good speech. For the Democrats to make MAGA their closing argument, because I personally think they're misreading the polling, is not going to help them. In large part, the economic news that's out there. This is CNBC.
The numbers are hitting the wires. 315,000. 315 is non-farm payrolls. And if we look at private payrolls, they were 308,000. Now, let's get into the manufacturing. 22,000. That's much better than the 15,000 expected. And the unemployment rate, think household survey here, jumps up to 3.7%. 3.7%. That's the highest since February when we were at 3.8%. Now, if we look at average hourly earnings month over month, up 0.3. That's a bit light of expectations, up 4. It's definitely lighter than the up 0.5%, up 0.5 we had in the rearview mirror. And if we go from month over month, Becky, to year over year, it's 5.2%. Historically, a very juicy number, that's for sure. But we're expecting 5.3%. The high water mark is 5.6%. That was in March. Now, if we look at all the hours worked, the average hourly work week, 34.5. That's also about 1/10 light, both to expectations and to our last peak. And finally, the labor force participation rate, 62.4. If there's one area that I'm always happy to see the numbers expand on, that would be it, which means it's a post-COVID equaled high. It's the same as it was in March at 62.4. But for those listeners and viewers out there, pre-COVID in February 2020, it was 63.4. The labor force is smaller, even though we have so many job openings. And the underemployment rate, or U6, is 7%. That moved from 6.7%, which was a post-COVID low. And actually, in February 2020, that was at 7%. It's one of the rare metrics in the employment report that actually started to come down more than its pre-COVID levels. Post-market, what we are seeing is interest rates really haven't moved very much.
And so the result is that the stock market is up. They take this as good news. U.S. employers adding 315,000 more workers. You see people coming back in, a lot of it, honestly. I think it's not just COVID. It's people who became crypto billionaires are now crypto thousandaires, and they've got to go back to work now. That's good stuff. And now Joe Biden can't really run on that stuff. He's got to run on MAGA Republicans. That's his closing argument. But there are actually a number of data points in the overall report that are also causing trouble. For example, food prices are expected to continue to go up. Nonetheless, after the speech last night, and bear with me because I'm about to come to your phone calls, but I gotta play you this audio. This is Van Jones on CNN last night.
Coming into Labor Day weekend, you're starting to see the beginnings of what could be a blue wave. I mean, I don't think people understand on the Democratic side how upset and now motivated Democrats are. There was a season of shame from the time that the Afghanistan exit was botched and this whole year of getting nothing done, where Democrats had our heads held down. Now, because Biden has been so successful on his legislative agenda and Republicans have been so scary in what they're talking about, taking away women's right to vote, women's right to choose, attacking the vote. And then you have Donald Trump basically saying, if you come to Washington, D.C. and beat people up on my behalf, I would give you a pardon. That scares the crap out of people, and that's making people want to stand up and go vote. And so now you have the economy on the one side, which I think motivates the Republicans, but you have this sense of democracy under threat motivating Democrats. Biden was speaking for tens of millions of people yesterday, last night, and I think that you're going to see this clash now. It's not going to be just a red wave. There's going to be a blue wave fighting back.
You think so, but David Axelrod, who is Obama's strategist and senior advisor, is on Twitter today saying the speech is definitely going to help Democrats in blue parts of the country, but what about in swing states? And if you want a sense of how bad it is, this literally just happened. The president's already walking back his speech from last night. Yesterday, Joe Biden tweeted, Donald Trump and MAGA are a threat to the country. He said it as much last night in his speech after the tweet yesterday, and now this from 12 minutes ago.
All right.
Mr. President, do you consider all Trump supporters to be a threat to the country?
No, everyone, come on.
I don't consider any Trump
It's hard to hear him there, but he's telling Peter Doocy, I don't consider any Trump supporter a threat to the country. Do you not remember your speech from just last night or your tweet from yesterday? Really, this was the tweet? Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the very soul of the country. And now he says, I don't consider any Trump supporter to be a threat. I do think anyone who calls for the use of violence and fails to condemn violence when it's used, refuses to acknowledge an election has been won, that's a threat to democracy. You haven't condemned the attacks, the firebombings of the pregnancy center, so are you a threat to democracy, Mr. President? This is the hole he and the Democrats have now dug themselves into as they move forward into the 2022 closing 2 months. Now, let's take your phone calls on this. I want to start with Bob. You're going to be up first. Bob, welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. It's always nice talking with you. This is obviously, I'm going to talk about the speech last night from President Biden. My maternal grandparents lived through most of the 30s in Germany before they immigrated to the United States. And when I was growing up, I had long talks with them about what it was like and what went on. And from what they told me, I equate what Biden said last night to a Megalkristnacht. That they said that there was an incident with the communists where there was a riot. Hitler declared martial law and took over the country. And I know that may have far reach, but he is acting so irrationally, in my opinion, that I don't put anything beyond him.
Yeah, listen, he can't actually declare martial law to the extent you or I would think so because of the states and the Supreme Court. But I understand why you think that. I do, and that's kind of the problem here. The speech was designed to fire up Democrats. It wasn't designed to persuade independents. It was designed to mobilize the Democratic base. And that may help the Democrats in a seat that was D plus 10. Remember, Republicans for a while thought, we got a chance now in seats that are D plus 10. And in seats where Biden won by 10 points, we got a chance. I don't think the Republicans have that chance anymore. I don't. But what about in the swing states? And that gets to David Axelrod's cautionary tweet. What about the swing states where it's Biden plus 1 or Biden plus 3 or even Biden plus 5? Now you've alienated independents by attacking Republicans. You're not running on your agenda. Here's what I think Democrats miss. They have chosen themselves to place themselves in progressive enclaves around the country. They will win in those areas. Republicans will not have a chance. But what about in the other areas of the country? The swing state areas of the country where the Democrats don't control stuff. They'll certainly be motivated, but they don't hold a majority there. They depend on independent and moderate voters who had been in the last month trending their direction, who, because of some of the economic news out there today that doesn't actually, when you get into it, look very good, looks destabilizing, are going to head back to the GOP. That's going to hurt them. They've misread the polling. I'm telling you all, they've misread the polling. Tommy, you're going to be up next. Welcome.
Hi there. Just wanting to lighten up everything a little bit. I was watching YouTube last night, one of my guilty pleasures, and I saw Eric Erickson popped up. There was a car with a food camera, and it was driving along, and the video on their dash cam was picking it up, and it was Eric. And I remember I was watching. I heard you on the radio when you used it about, you read the book, you know how it's going to end, So anyway, I just told him it's called Idiots in Cars compilation number 105.
Wow.
Toward the second half of the video, but I didn't recognize the location. I couldn't figure that out, but I just thought I'd have to call you and lighten up everything a little bit.
I appreciate it. That's hilarious, and I'm glad to know I wasn't the idiot in the car. All right, let's go. Ruth Mary, you're going to be up next. Welcome.
Oh, good afternoon, Eric. I ended up turning off the person giving the speech last night. He just infuriated me, but what I noticed right away is, like you said, the background, the two Marines, and my husband, who is a Marine, when he saw that, he was so irritated. He was infuriated that he was using the Marines. And not only that, we also noticed that the Marine next to the Pennsylvania flag, state flag, was way off center. And I said, I wonder if he did that on purpose as a protest or what. They weren't positioned correctly. But, because of military, that's why that kind of popped out to us. But I couldn't believe his speech, what I heard of it. And I thought, okay, we still have people still protesting at the Chief Justice, the Supreme Court places. And then what you've brought up, all the different things, and you got that idiot that's going to be the running mate to Chris spouting off like crazy, almost as crazy as what he was up there. And I thought, and you got the nerve to call the rest of us idiots, or the words that he used, anti or semi-fascist and so forth. I thought, you better look at yourself in the mirror, or before you start calling the people other things, you better look at within your own party. The point is that the people who are going to support Trump, no matter what, are still going to vote for him. And the people who are going to vote for Joe Biden or for the Democrat Party, they're going to stand by him too. So it's like you said, it's going to be the independents and some of the other people that are sitting on the fence. This may change their opinion.
And this is, Rosemary, listen, thank you very much for that. And this is the point that listen, I've run political campaigns. I've never run a presidential campaign, but I've run statewide campaigns. I've run local campaigns. I myself have gotten elected. I'm a student of politics. I've taken the classes. I've taught the classes. I know how to run campaigns. And I'm just listening to all of this from last night thinking, how does this make a persuasive case for independence to come to you when your case to independence over the last month has been about your policies, your ability to govern, your ability to get things done? The Republicans have no plans, and now you're back to MAGA Republicans are a threat. And now with less than 24 hours later, walking it all back, saying, no, I don't think they're a threat. That's not good politics, Joe. Saeed, you're going to be next. Welcome to the program.
Eric?
Yes, welcome.
Good to talk to you again. You know what I think? I think that he did this exactly on plan that make Democrats to be proud and be fired up, and Republicans are mad and upset, or conservative. In the middle of all this is going to get the water muddy on the swing states. As a result, they're going to bring the ballots, the absentee ballots, and they say it's not safe for people to go vote, and they're going to do something like that. Is that possible?
Oh, look, it wouldn't surprise me if we suddenly have COVID, the midterm edition, where they suddenly decide that everybody's got to have absentee ballots again to try to pull things off. I don't think that's going to be possible this time, because I think they're alienating independents with stuff like this. I do think that Joe Biden or Donald Trump in 2020 really did alienate independents more than a lot of Trump supporters care to admit. And I really do think that this stuff with Mar-a-Lago alienates independents about Donald Trump, and the Republicans' rush to stand by their man actually is deeply distracting to a core closing message from the GOP. I think it hurts the GOP. And the trend lines in the polling that have been positive for the GOP all along have shifted to the Democrats. It is seasonal. It is fluctuation. It is a fluctuation. It is reliable that this happens. The question is, does it sustain itself? And the Democrats seem to have known all along the seasonal fluctuation was when they needed to build some momentum. And now Joe Biden comes in with the student loan bailout in this speech and essentially ties their shoelaces together. And I don't think that this helps the Democrats moving forward persuade independents. They think that if they just turn out their base, that they can win. And I don't think that's true in any way, shape, or form. And I think this kind of scuttles any momentum the Democrats thought they had. Now, listen, before I get out of here, the Eden Pure thunderstorm, this is the last day, y'all, for the BOGO. And I got to remind you about that. It really is a great device, particularly for odors. If you have a litter box, so you keep your litter box in your garage or your laundry room or something, and you want to eliminate the odors, the Eden Pure Thunderstorm really does work. I use it in the kitchen for fry odors. I keep one in my suitcase if my hotel is musty or the rental car has had somebody smoking in it. The Thunderstorm eliminates odors, whether it's pet odors, cigar odors, urine odors, cooking odors, you name it. And right now, when you buy one, you get one for free. No matter how many you buy, you get an equal number free. So if you buy 2, you're going to get 2 free. Buy 5, you're going to get 5 for free as well. They've sold over 265,000 of these, and they just work. You plug it in, and it just works. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. Eden, like the Garden of Eden, pure as the driven snow. EdenPureDeals.com. You use the discount code ERICBOGO, ERICKBOGO, right there on the front of the website. You go to EdenPureDeals.com. There is a box right there. You put in ERICBOGO, ERICKBOGO, and you'll buy one, get one free. Buy 2, get 2 free. You get free shipping regardless of how many you buy. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERICBOGO. Shipping's free. You can go get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now, and you'll get extras for free. All right, let me see if I can squeeze in one more call here before we go to the next break. David, you're going to be up next on the Eric Erickson Show. Welcome, David. How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you?
Great.
No, I've been listening and watching this whole thing unfold, and this just seems like the biggest rope-a-dope that's going on, in that Trump is not running for anything right now. Mm-hmm. Get on the Trump issues in December, focus on all the failed policies of the Democrats, and there is nothing they can hang their hat on to defend. So I think this whole thing is just the Democrats causing a fuss to keep the eye off the ball.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's designed to fire up their base. It's designed to be a distraction. And I don't think it's going over. So right now at the White House, while I am talking to you guys right now here, David, the White House is largely apologizing for having Marines present. Karine Jean-Pierre, I'll get the audio here, it just happened, is very defensive about why the Marines were in the background, which you're not supposed to do for a political event. If you keep in mind, when Donald Trump did his acceptance speech for the GOP in 2020, and they had the event at the White House, they kept the Marines out of the picture. So they're defensive about that. And now you've got the president walking back his claim that Republicans are threats. Literally, he tweeted yesterday that Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are a threat to the nation. And then he said it last night, and he just 15 minutes ago now said, I don't think they're a threat, that they are in full walking back mode. Should tell you everything you need to know. They screwed up, and they know they screwed up. And Democratic analysts are behind the scenes telling them they really screwed up.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.